Hello, everyone, and welcome to 1000 Conversations About Mental Health. My name is Heather Irish, and I'm the co-host of 1000 Conversations About Mental Health. My co-host Mindy Wolven is not here today, unfortunately, but we hope that she'll be back for the next show next month. Today we have a program for you that we're going to talk about dementia. We're going to talk about Alzheimer's. We're going to talk about the difference between the different kinds of dementia, what Alzheimer's means, and how families can deal with it, because it's a topic that a lot of people have not been educated about, and there are some real answers out there. So we want to provide you some answers, and in order to do that, my guest today is Debbie Irish Fabbro, and she is an RN who specializes in dementia care. Now, as full disclosure, I need to also tell you that my guest today is my beloved mother, and she truly is a specialist in dementia care, and I'm thrilled to have you here. Thank you, Mom, for coming into the show today.
Thank you, Heather. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So talk to me about, if you've got families, baby boomers are getting older, and they're starting to be having to take care of their parents, and they might see their parent going through something where they might forget a birthday, they might forget a name, but maybe they can think of the name a few seconds later, or maybe they confuse things a little bit. Is that dementia?
It's funny that you say that, because there are people who will come up to me and go, oh, my mom forgot what she was going to go to the grocery store for, or missed a doctor's appointment. We all have those situations, every one of us. We seem to put a close eye on older people because dementia is such a big term right now. Mm-hmm. The fact is, no. That does not mean she has dementia. One of the best examples I've heard, an explanation of dementia, is if you lose your car keys, everybody loses their car keys. But if you lose them and then you find them and you don't know what they do, then we may have the issue of some form of dementia. And I'd like to, using that word, I'd like to clarify what dementia is.
Sure.
Because we see a lot of people today using the word Alzheimer's for every form of dementia.
Right.
If we think about dementia as an umbrella, if you think about the umbrella and the stick underneath, the whole top of the umbrella would be dementia. That stick underneath would divide the curable forms of dementia and the incurable forms of dementia.
So where's Alzheimer's? Is Alzheimer's underneath the umbrella?
It's underneath the umbrella of dementia.
So it's one type of dementia.
Right.
And so then how many different types of dementia are there?
50.
Really?
60. Yeah. There are many. And many of them on that curable side are things that it can be caused by a drug interaction. It can be caused by certain types of thyroid conditions, or just different physical conditions. One of the leading ones that's really interesting is called normal pressure hydrocephalus. Oh. And normal pressure hydrocephalus causes dementia, but it's because it's a buildup of spinal fluid in the brain, in the center of the brain, in the ventricles, in the middle of the brain. There are these areas. And if you build up the spinal fluid in there, it pushes the brain out, causes a dementia. It also causes a shuffling gait and incontinence. Now, the cure for that?
Right.
Very simple. They put a shunt in and they drain that fluid off. And I've had a couple patients who actually have gone from being confused and going down that path and come back to acting as normal people.
Okay, so you've just used a lot of medical terms. So let's back it up a little bit and say, how do you know if somebody has dementia? What do you do? Is there a doctor that you go to that diagnoses dementia?
First off, the majority of people, studies have shown that the majority of the people that do come down with some form of dementia have usually had it for a couple years before they seek help.
Okay.
The family has made excuses, or the patient has made excuses, and then it gets to a point where it's like, oh boy, this is not good. We need to get mom to the doctor. So the first person they usually go to, of course, is their family doctor.
Right.
I like to see the next step after that, and that's a gerontologist.
So that's a specific type of doctor that deals just with patients who are in their what age?
Over 70.
Over 70.
Let's put it that.
Okay.
I'm close enough that I'm going to say over 70.
The bar keeps going up.
It does. It's older. And I think that at that point, you need to have that specialist.
Okay.
It's just like you wouldn't take, and I hate to compare the two, but you wouldn't take your 2-year-old to a family doctor. You'd take him to a pediatrician.
Right.
You don't, and when you have those special needs of a mature, aging adult, you need that specialist.
And you're going to get specialized care from that doctor who's going to know exactly what to do with that patient, who's going to be trained in how the brain of a geriatric patient works and the type of health conditions that go along with being in the 70s and 80s and 90s.
There And also the ability to get them to the next specialist. Once you go through all of that, and there are people, the type of dementia that when we try to figure out what type of dementia we're dealing with, whether it's Alzheimer's or vascular dementia or Pick's disease, these are all listings of, or Parkinson's dementia.
Right.
It's almost a process of elimination. There's not a test that goes, okay, that's what it is. What we've got is a process of elimination to say, okay, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, and we've come down to, it looks like we're dealing with Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm. So when people say, because people say it a lot out in public, in the general public, they say, oh my gosh, I forgot to turn off the lights, I must have Alzheimer's. Does that bother you when you hear people say that?
It does. It does
because it's not, they don't have Alzheimer's.
No.
It's a different, Alzheimer's has very specific symptoms, or dementia has very specific symptoms.
You're right in both ways. Dementia has specific symptoms, and Alzheimer's patients have specific symptoms. I can usually, just by seeing the progression of the patient, know that, yeah, we probably are talking about Alzheimer's. There's two types of Alzheimer's, by the way. There's the one that we're going to get, and it is a disease. The process of that disease are small little plaques and tangles in the brain.
Okay, hold on. You mean plaque, like what you get on your teeth?
Yeah, I really do. Yeah, little pieces of plaque, amyloid plaque it's called.
So if someone has a lot of plaque on their teeth, are they more likely to get Alzheimer's?
No, I've not read any study that says that.
Okay.
But the plaques and tangles, they can see through a special scanning device sometimes, and they can see those, and by that, and we really see it afterwards on an autopsy. And we know that cut off the connection with the neurons in the brain, and it blocks them. So for a long time, you're going on and making new connections.
Okay, so wait a minute. So you mean that the person, if you've got grandma or grandpa or mom or dad that doesn't remember your name, or can't remember where the keys are, or doesn't, or thinks that the president is Eisenhower right now, they're not doing that on purpose?
No.
They're not doing it to make you angry?
No. And that's, sociologists have talked about the fact this is the first time in human history that we have such a huge group of middle-aged adults who are caring for their parents. And when these parents, because we are living so much longer now on an average, we still have that parent-child, doesn't matter how old you are,
right.
You still have that parent-child situation. So you have your 85-year-old parents and you're in your 60s, and they'll say, no, you're wrong, and you become that 10-year-old kid again. This is a big shift that has to happen, because what happens is that you have to become the parent.
Right.
And that's very difficult. That's the change that I've spoken with many family members who go, I just can't do it. And the biggest thing is, you know, I've watched your dad come to visit your mom, and he gets lost when he leaves here. He doesn't know where his car is. He doesn't know what the keys are for.
Right.
But he's got this pattern, and he gets in the car and goes back home, and you need to take a look at that and think, no, can't do it. It's my dad.
Isn't that interesting?
As a little side note here, there was a terrible accident in Santa Monica probably about 10 years ago, where a gentleman hit the gas and not the brakes on his car and drove into a bizarre area
Right.
in downtown.
A flea market.
Yes,
Right.
a street market,
Right.
and killed 12 people. And the family knew he had dementia,
Right.
most likely Alzheimer's, and they were held responsible.
Oh, interesting. So this is something that families do need to, I mean, does Alzheimer's happen to everybody? Or does dementia, is dementia going to happen to all of us?
If you live long enough, you probably will. And that's some of the new studies now saying, you know, if we can just stall off this disease, we don't have to cure it. The majority of people, probably about 50% of the population, is going to have some form of dementia over the age of 85. Could be minor. It's called mild cognitive impairment. So you have that group of people. If you can just stall that disease for 10 years, something else is going to get you.
Okay, so you've got a parent, and I'm using parent just because it's an easy example to go to. So you've got a parent who's been diagnosed with dementia, and it's now not possible. You need to go the next step, because it's not possible for them to care for themselves at their home. So you've got the option of bringing them into your home, but maybe they need even more care than that. Maybe that's just too much. How does a family deal with that when they say, we don't know what to do?
It's very, very difficult. If there is one thing that's difficult about this disease process, it's how it affects the families. I have had many patients come into my facilities who have kept them home so long, and it's usually a spouse. It's either the wife or the husband, and going, no, I can't. And these are long-term married couples. They can't bear the thought of not being together. And so when they finally make that decision and they come into a facility, and you go, it breaks my heart, because it's what that caregiver has gone through, because I know the level and where this patient is.
So it breaks your heart for the caregiver, not for the patient. Because what's going to happen to the patient? When you say facility, what do you mean?
Usually an assisted living facility or and assisted living facilities have special areas for dementia care. It's usually either on the third floor or in the facility somewhere, so that they have special support.
Okay.
And I have to tell you, for the most part, once you get that loved one who you've been dealing with for so long, and you hate to see them go, but the caregiver is at this point exhausted.
Right.
Because he can't sleep. I had one gentleman come to me after his wife was admitted to my floor, and he said, it was like 3 days later, he said, I've slept for the last 2 days, the first time in 5 years. And he said, I was afraid she was going to get up and walk outside. I was afraid she was going to hurt herself.
How awful.
And so he was just hypervigilant for 5 years.
Right.
Once you get that loved one into the proper environment, I can't tell you what a difference it is, not only for the family, but for the loved one.
But how do you have that conversation with that person of saying, we think it's time for you to go, you need more specialized care?
There's usually an event.
Oh, there's an event. Okay.
There's always an event. And just an example, my late mother-in-law, who she was found wandering at 4 o'clock in the morning out in her nightgown in the street.
Okay.
And that was the time that said, you know what, it has to be changed. And once they're in that environment, their shoulders go down, they're more relaxed.
They feel safe.
They're safe, and they're with other people who aren't going to continually test them.
So, okay, so talk about that. So what do you mean by testing them, people testing them?
We have a society where we think we have to use it or lose it. So whether it's exercise.
Oh, okay. Everything.
Everything.
Right.
So when someone has this issue, when your parent or your grandma, you think, well, I'm just going to keep testing them and that'll keep it going.
Keep that muscle memory.
Absolutely.
Keep using it.
That doesn't work so much. That doesn't work so well on dementia. It actually just is a very frustrating situation.
Frustrating when you say, Grandpa, do you remember my name? Right. Grandpa, do you remember when we did this?
I want you to come up and go, Grandpa, I'm Debbie. I'm your oldest granddaughter.
Okay, so give them cues.
Absolutely. Let them, and even if they don't remember, they can go, oh yeah, yeah.
So when they have dementia, do they know what's going on around them in the present moment?
In the moment, absolutely.
Okay.
Because they live in the moment.
Okay.
And that's, again, this disease process, the whole thing, is hardest on the family. Mm-hmm. The hardest part for the patient is when they know they don't know.
Okay.
That's extremely frustrating.
Well, it'd be frustrating for anybody.
Absolutely. It's like, and I hear people say, oh, the dementia patients all get mean. Well, they don't get mean. They're just frustrated. As an example, have you ever tried to hook up your printer to your computer?
Yes.
And you do it, and you press the print button, it doesn't work.
Right.
So you go back and forth and you do it again. And then you do it again and again. And you unplug it, replug it, reboot, and it's not working. And then someone comes up and says, hi, we're going to have breakfast soon? And you'd be like, don't talk to me, I'm trying to fix this thing. That's what they experience that whole time. They're trying to reboot, they're trying to figure out, what the heck happened? I used to be able to do this.
Right. And everyone, to an extent, a lot of people have experienced that, of going, I just had a thought in my head, I was just going to tell you something, but now I don't remember it. And it's very frustrating, it's embarrassing.
Right. Dementia patients have that through that one process, through that one part of the disease process that is really the sad part. Mm-hmm. Once that's passed, you actually have. Now, it's harder for the family because at that point they may not remember who you are.
Right.
Or they may not be able to recall those instances that are so special to you. But they themselves, we have people that were on gastric medications or different medications for anxiety. It's gone.
Oh, as soon
They're
as they
healthy.
get to the facility where they can feel comfortable and where people aren't quizzing them on their memory all the time, mm-hmm. and their needs are being met right now.
Right.
Then they're coming.
And they're with other people that are in the same situation. So they're not sitting at the table where someone's going, hey, what'd you think about that stock market yesterday? That was pretty good, wasn't it? How'd your stocks do? And they're like trying to keep up. Now we're sitting at a table where we have a group of people who go, this is good. Yes. You have children. Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. They can just do those things that we all have done for years,
right?
But it's not specific.
So tell me about, there's a lot of talk right now, two things. First of all, about music and the role that music plays in dementia care. So tell me how that works, because there's been some really tremendous things that have happened with music and people who have these issues.
Well, we know that music stays in a certain part of the brain. Okay, it's one of those things. As an example, I had a resident out in California who had lived in the facility for 5 years, had to ask 4 times a day, where's her room? Had to remember how to go to the dining room. I mean, she'd been there. She was 91 years old. But she was a singer on Broadway.
Oh.
And she knew every song and the words to every song, and she had perfect pitch. So if I was singing in the hallway, she'd stop and go, that was terribly out of tune. She actually, I had her made the arrangements, and she sang the national anthem at the Ventura Alzheimer's Walk in front of 2,000 people, and was introduced as someone who's had the disease for some years, and she stood out there and belted out the Star-Spangled Banner, and wasn't a dry eye in the house.
So the music sits in a different part of the brain that is not affected, that is sometimes not affected by the disease?
It seems, you know what?
Hard to, don't know right now?
There's a saying in this business, if you've seen one dementia patient,
you've seen one
dementia patient, because it all affects the brain differently. But a good portion of our patients that we've dealt with, and now that studies show, are able to relate to music. And that's that part that goes back into those good feelings of doing the jitterbug at the dance on the Friday night,
right.
Or listening to Guy Lombardo. Those sounds and those tones, and we're doing it at the facility I work at now, where we put little earphones on. They all have little iPods. The music is loaded up, and they pin the little iPod on them, and you can see those faces. You can see them.
Do they light up?
Absolutely.
Can you see some cognizance as to what's going on, that they're enjoying the music?
They're enjoying the music, they're tapping their toes, and we try to do, of course, age-appropriate music, because there's a whole, just not the sounds, it's the memories that
I wonder, and this is, on this show we talk very scientifically about the brain and about mental health issues, but there's times when you talk about the music and how it affects the brain, I wonder if that's the soul. It's that magic little part.
And it's a good point. Absolutely.
It's just
and
interesting.
It's still there. And I think that's the most important thing, because many of our families feel that they've lost their mother or their father when they get to that stage of the game. Mm-hmm. And they haven't lost them. They're still there. They're living in a different plane, a different area, but that loved one is still in that body. And to be honest, even though their transmitter may be affected and down,
meaning in their brain, calling that their transmitter.
How they transmit and present themselves, we're never really sure if the receiver's not working full blast.
So deal with your parent as you always would, okay? Or maybe you've got to change up your approach a little bit of not quizzing them, dealing in the moment, okay, and giving them cues as to, it's Monday today, how are you doing? This is a beautiful yellow shirt that you have on.
And when they start going, one of the things we do in this type of care is we try to redirect. If they do start going down a path that may be hurtful or not appropriate, you can easily go, how about those tigers?
Okay.
Because we can pull them back and try to redirect them. What do you think about that, weather?
So I have a question for you that we ask all of our guests on this show, and it's called the Magic Wand Question. And so it's a two-parter, though. You've been given a magic wand. Mm-hmm. You can change people's behavior. What would you do, or what would you have them, actually, what would you do to make them change their behavior when it comes to dementia care?
To change the behavior to dementia care, I would probably have people understand this is going to be harder. This process is going to be harder on the family in the long run than the patient. The family is going to see this transition. The patient, once they get past that one part, is going to live in the moment, and with the proper environment, with the proper care, with the proper activities, proper stimulation, good food, a healthy environment, they're going to be okay.
I think that's so important. I see so many of my friends and associates who are so afraid to go into a facility. They say, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. When you know that, I mean, if you're familiar with facilities, you know that that loved one is now going to be taken care of really, really well and be around people their own age. And
one of the things that's very important to remember is, even though you say, well, I don't have to visit them because they don't know who I am, you have to visit them for you.
Good point.
Because you only have that one opportunity.
Right.
And when that opportunity is gone, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not going to go and visit that person for yourself,
right,
so that you know, I was there.
Right.
I was there. I saw the transition. I dealt with that other person. It was loving, wonderful, and I'm good, because the eventual end will be.
None of us get out of this world alive.
No.
So that's what you would have them do. What would you have them stop doing with your magic wand?
I would have them, actually, I probably would have them stop giving so many medications.
Oh, and now, okay, hold on, because people are going to run with this who watch this program. Stop giving so many medications. Why? Because there are people who say, oh yeah, that's bad. You're not supposed to take any medicine at all, ever.
Oh, no, not. But when we have, there are all sorts of medications out there for dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And they are good to fend off that disease process. But it's inevitable.
Okay.
Once that disease process is in the mid to late stages, those drugs really are such an expense to the family, such an expense to our medical system.
So you're talking about not so many drugs specifically for dementia care.
Yeah, it's one of my things.
Okay.
That I feel that you do get to a point where let's back off on these drugs now. It's not working.
Right.
They've done their best.
Right.
And
you may get another year. You may stave it off for a year. You may stave it off for 2 years.
In the early stages and mid stages.
Okay.
And even the prescription drugs say that it's for early to mid stage.
Well, I have to tell you, I wish that everyone who is dealing with this situation could have you as their nurse.
Oh.
They could have you as their person that gets them from different stages and progresses through this process. I truly wish that they could have you. We need to clone you so that you can go around and help people get through this.
Well, it is my my calling. I love dealing with it. And the biggest thing I do deal with, of course, are the families.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening today. I hope you learned something about dementia care and about the difference between the types of dementia, and that it's really okay to go seek help for these issues. These are real issues, they're medical issues, and it's nobody's fault. Please get help if you need it, and we hope that you tune in next time to 1000 Conversations About Mental Health. Thank you, Mom, for coming in. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.